Hey, this is Luke with Salt Strong out here on a sunny January morning. We're gonna go upriver. We have a really windy day, although the wind hasn't picked up yet. It's about to start. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna be going upriver and just bouncing small jigs around deep structure, looking for snook, redfish, tarpon. Anyhow, we'll keep you posted. Hopefully we get some big ones. So at this point, I was very excited. This is my first time fishing up inland like this in this river. I've always wanted to do it. I've heard it's good. And this day, it was cold and it was supposed to be really windy, and so I thought this would be the perfect time to do it. So first stop is we went to a bridge, just looking for some deep structure, some deep water on a cold morning is usually great. No bites there, gave it like 10 minutes, pushed further inland, and it was really cool to see the trees go from just mangroves to now we're starting to see some oaks and even pines up there close to the water. And on the way there, I was really looking for life and really wasn't seeing any. I didn't really see any wading birds. So then I noticed this dock. It was the only dock along a really long, expansive shoreline. It was really the only shade, and so I thought it's worth a try. It was on the bend of this river, and we jigged that for a little bit, no action. We went up that shoreline a little bit as well, still no action. Again, about 15 minutes, not seeing much results, so picked up and kept going. So at this point, we're about 5 or 6 miles further inland, still have yet to see a feeding bird or a jumping mullet, and we're now past the type of areas where there's going to be oysters and barnacles. And again, just surprised how little life there was. We were fishing all sorts of structure. There you can see some cattails to the right, and then mangrove still over there on the left. So just it should have been an area that I thought would hold fish, and not much was happening. So we finally at least saw some life, and we thought it was tarpon rolling out in the middle, and turns out it was a garfish, one of which came right up next to the boat. And this was our sign that it's time to leave and just totally change the plan. All right, so we gave it about an hour and just really no life. We came up a good ways. That's actually Interstate 75. So we're a good ways inland and didn't really see any feeding birds, nor even wading birds. No jumping mullet, and so what we're gonna do is we're gonna now head back towards the salt water, towards what I'm more comfortable with and more confident in, and we're gonna see if we can at least get on the board and save a skunk trip. So we're gonna lock and load it. We have probably at least 6-7 miles to go, and we'll see you there. So the good news is we saw some cool stuff. It was unique seeing the different estuaries throughout this system here, throughout this river. The bad news is that the fish were just totally laughing at us. I was feeling dejected, thought I'd have to post a skunk trip, which was not going to be a fun thing. And here's where we finally started to get some strikes. But this boat didn't see us because we were so tight behind that point, and it was a very narrow channel that he had to buzz by. And that basically blew up that spot. Plus, these waves go over the side of the boat a little bit. It was just one of those days, and nothing's working. And on the way back, I finally saw a slimmer of hope. So here's our last shot of catching something. All right, so pulling up, we see the first bird of the day. Literally covered 10+ miles. It's not feeding, but there's at least a bird there. Sign of life. Hopefully this does it. There we go. There we are. Persistence pays off, Tony.
Man, brother.
We had to work for this fish. Nice. The old mulligan. Nice work there, Tony.
Look at how I'm hooked.
Barely had him
Barely.
hooked. What a relief it was to finally get a fish on the board. And so we kept fishing down the shoreline, and literally about like 4 or 5 casts later, Tony hooks into another fish. Oh, another one. Oh, a trout. Sweet. Oh. So after seeing Tony catch 2 fish right in my face, he was using a weighted hook. I was using a jig head. So I, of course, made the switch. And sure enough, my very first cast with the weighted hook, the Haas Helix hook with the Power Prawn USA, got a trout. Cold fish, and let him back in there. Nice. So shortly after my trout, we ended up having to go back in. It turned out to be a fun day. It was just very tough, right? We covered a lot of ground. I just want to talk about the 2 core lessons from the trip, and then I'll talk about the tackle at the end for those who are interested. That question comes up a lot, so always want to make sure to add that. So number 1 lesson is the fact that of just how important it is to keep moving around. This was an abnormally slow day. We covered a lot of water. It was just 3.5 hours. That was the only time allotted we had to fish. We ended up traveling a little over 15 miles in total. And had we spent too much time in those different areas, there's no way that we would eventually found those fish. It really happened at the very end. Went way inland, only tried out a couple spots each time for maybe 10, 15 minutes. Didn't see any signs of life. There wasn't any bait fish. There weren't any birds feeding. And as we bounced lures that we know worked along the bottom, we weren't getting strikes, so we pick up and move. And so we just kept doing that, and then finally found an area with some life. That one bird was all it took, right? All that mangrove shoreline looked pretty similar, and that one bird, that was the one unique factor that literally led me to say, hey, let's go ahead and try this spot before we head back. And finally, we got some action. So lesson number 2 is just to look for signs of life. When you're out there on the water, especially on days like this when it's really tough, is just to keep your eyes peeled, look for birds. My personal favorite bird is an egret, and that's what we saw out there. They're usually right on the shoreline. And the fact that they're bright white, they're usually pretty easy to see from a long distance. But again, look for any sorts of birds that ideally they're feeding. Even if they're roosting, that's still better than nothing. But ideally a feeding bird on the shoreline or in the water, or look for jumping mullet or just any signs of bait fish. And if you do those 2 things every trip, that should help minimize the skunk trips. Again, I had a really close call, but we just dodged it at the very end. As far as tackle, just to maximize results for doing this type of inshore fishing, I really just love lightweight tackle. And really the big reason why I like it is because I can cast further, I can have extra distance, and I can have better feel. With this nice lightweight rod and reel and light line, the castability is great, the feel's great, and there's still enough power to handle some really nice fish. So this is a 7/6 rod. It's a medium power rod. This is called the slot machine. Yeah, it's medium power, fast tip. It's great for both artificials and for live bait. I absolutely love this. As far as the reel, this is the BGMQ 2500. 2500 size is plenty big enough for both slot and over slot snook and reds, as long as you're not in heavy current or heavy structure situations. So this small reel and the 10-pound line on it. So 10-pound J-braid is what's on there. I had a 20-pound mono leader. And as far as lures, I was using Power Prawn USA Juniors the whole time. I had it first on a weedless football jig, right? That way I can get down there deep next to the structure without having to worry about getting snagged all the time. Very, very good. These are brand new. These things are game changers for the wintertime in particular, fishing deep structure. And then once that sun was up and we started realizing those fish were holding basically up under the mangroves, that's when I moved over to this, where it's the same lure, the Power Prawn USA Junior, but I rigged it on a Haas Helix hook. This is my new favorite weighted hook. It just has great hookup ratio. Plus it works on just a huge variety of soft plastics. It's super easy to rig, great hookup ratio. And now we have it in different sizes as well. So really, really cool. So that's it. And if you need any of this tackle, it's all at fishstrong.com, and you members can actually get it all at 20% off. We no longer can do reels at 20% off, unfortunately. However, we will add on free line and we'll spool it for you free of charge. So again, anything you need, fishstrong.com. And if you have any questions about this trip, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you and be happy to help however possible. Thank you so much for your time and watching. Hope to see you again soon.